Hello and welcome to the San Mateo County Department Operations Center training. This is an introductory course on the County Health Department Operations Center. By the end of this training, you will understand the role of County Health during emergency response or emergency coordination, understand the function of the Department Operations Center, or DOC, review ICS, the Incident Command System, and its concepts and apply them to DOC operations, and identify the roles and responsibilities within the DOC. Before we continue, it is important to remember that preparedness starts with you. As a county health employee, you are a disaster service worker and can be called back to work at any time to respond to an emergency. It is important to take care of yourself and your family before you report to work. The best way to do so is through personal preparedness. For information on how to prepare yourself and your loved ones, please visit www.ready.gov. If a disaster strikes in San Mateo County, it is highly likely that the medical health branch will have to respond. Whether earthquake, fire, or flood, the residents and visitors of San Mateo County will count on us to coordinate the medical health response. Here is an overview of the response and coordination levels in the state of California. It ranges from the field up to the federal government. Examples of field-level response are ambulance providers on scene or healthcare facilities that have been impacted by a disaster. The local government level is represented by cities and DOCs. The operational area refers to coordination for all of San Mateo County. The Medical Health Operational Area Coordination Program, or MHOAC, sits here. This is also the level where the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services, or OES, resides. During a disaster, OES will open their Emergency Operations Center. Above operational area is the regional level. We belong to California Region 2. The Regional Disaster Medical Health, or RDMH program, is at this level and helps us receive additional resources from neighboring counties during a disaster. If the region cannot meet the needs of the disaster, state and federal programs can be accessed. Here is another image to demonstrate the response levels. All medical and health programs within a county report to their MHOAC for resources and assistance during a disaster. If the MHOAC becomes overwhelmed and cannot meet the needs of the county, the MHOAC goes to the RDMHS. The RDMHS reaches out to the Emergency Medical Services Authority or to the California Department of Public Health for additional resources and support as necessary. All of these pathways run parallel to OES, who is responsible for all disaster resources and support except for medical health. We communicate with our OES partners so that they can maintain good situational awareness and understand the health impacts of any incidents. What is an Emergency Operations Center, or an EOC? The EOC is used to coordinate response and resources to a large-scale emergency. The San Mateo County EOC is typically located at County Center in Redwood City. The EOC is activated during any type of emergency. It serves as the coordinating body for emergency response and is responsible for strategic direction and operational decisions, not for carrying out the response. What is a Department Operations Center, or DOC? The DOC is used to coordinate department-level response to a large-scale emergency. The San Mateo County Health DOC is typically located at 37th Avenue in San Mateo. It can also be located at an alternate location. The Health DOC can be activated during any and all types of emergencies. It serves as the coordinating body for emergency response and is responsible for strategic direction and operational decisions. Some of the roles of the DOC include preserving life safety, responding to public health emergencies such as disease outbreaks, coordinating medical health field operations such as providing behavioral health support, and coordinating the 17 MHOAC functions. For your reference, here are the 17 state-mandated MHOAC functions. They span from immediate assessment of medical needs and coordination of emergency medical care to the provision of several public health, environmental health, and behavioral health functions. The County EOC and the Health DOC interface in the following way. The County EOC contains a medical health branch which is staffed by the MHOAC or their designee. This individual coordinates with the Health DOC to communicate needs and to provide situational awareness. The County EOC coordinates disaster response for all aspects of the county except for medical health. The Health DOC is responsible for all medical health coordination. It's time for a knowledge check. Would San Mateo County open the Health DOC or the EOC for a major earthquake? The answer is both. An earthquake would disrupt both the medical health and public infrastructures. Would San Mateo County open the Health DOC or EOC for a communicable disease outbreak? Likely only the Health DOC would be activated to coordinate the response. Would San Mateo County open the Health DOC or EOC for a building fire? Likely only the EOC would be activated. However, the Health DOC may be activated for activities such as coordinating a behavioral health response. Would San Mateo County open the Health DOC or the EOC if a skilled nursing facility evacuated? The size of the incident would dictate if the EOC opens, but the Health DOC would open and take the lead on this incident. Activation and notification. How and when is the DOC activated? County Health maintains several on-call teams. The EMS/MHOAC on-call is the duty officer who serves as the entry point into the disaster medical health system. All medical health disruptions in San Mateo County are reported to the MHOAC, who will initiate the response or coordination as necessary. Another on-call position is the Health Duty Officer. The Health Duty Officer is a health executive, such as a division director, who can provide decision-making authority during an emergency. An example of when this position is contacted is during an earthquake. The health officer on call rotates between the health officers in San Mateo County to provide their authority and expertise on a 24-hour basis. An example of when the health officer on call might be contacted is during an infectious disease outbreak. Finally, there is a Scout/Field Rep on-call program, which consists of trained health staff who can deploy to the field to report the on-scene situation to the DOC to assist with the response. A scout might be deployed during a skilled nursing evacuation. The DOC can be activated in the following way. Dispatch or another source is notified of the emergency. Dispatch or this other source notifies one of the duty officers. The duty officer activates the policy group. The policy group decides whether to activate the DOC. The DOC is activated and the incident commander is assigned. What is the policy group? The policy group is made up of the Health Executive Committee and other key county health personnel with decision-making authority. The policy group provides direction and sets strategic objectives for the DOC. When the policy group decides to activate the DOC, it must decide what level of activation is necessary. Surveillance activation covers the day-to-day disruptions that an individual division can handle on their own. Partial activation occurs when an incident becomes more complex and staff are needed to virtually staff the DOC. During a partial activation, staff are performing DOC roles but are not located in the physical DOC. A full activation is when incidents are of such a magnitude that coordination of the responses at the scene or another location is not possible. Full staffing of the DOC is necessary to provide the support for operations. DOC staff is activated once the policy group determines the need to activate the DOC. Health staff are pre-assigned to DOC teams and will be contacted if they need to report to the DOC. Once activated, DOC teams will report to their assignments. The planning section will need to determine staff for the next operational period and determine if there is a need to activate technical experts or advisors. Additionally, the planning section will need to coordinate with the MHOAC for mutual aid requests for additional staff. During an extended incident, San Mateo County Health DOC staff may need to rely on relief staffing from other counties. In addition to being part of a DOC team, health staff may be deployed to the field as an agency representative or to provide a service such as environmental cleanup, nursing, or behavioral health services. The operational period of an incident is the period of time set by the policy group for the DOC. Typically, an operational period is 12 hours, but it is set depending on the immediate situation, availability of staff and resources, and length of time needed to accomplish the incident objectives. For incidents that continue for an extended period of time, it is possible for the operational period to be a week long. Now we're going to talk about DOC operations, or how the DOC runs. Here is a typical Incident Command System, or ICS, DOC organizational chart. ICS is the standardized approach to the command, control, and coordination of response, which provides a common language for all emergency responders to follow. We will review the role of each of these DOC positions and sections so that you have an understanding of the general function of each individual in the DOC. The DOC is organized between Command and General Staff. Command develops overall objectives and strategy, approves resource orders and demobilization, and approves the incident action plan. The operations section are the doers. This section assists with developing strategy, identifies, assigns, and supervises the resources needed to accomplish the incident objectives. The planning section are the planners. The planning section provides status reports, manages the planning process, and maintains all documentation. The getters are the logistics section. They order resources in addition to developing transportation and communication plans. The finance and administration section develops cost analyses, conducts finance, administration, and clerical support, develops contracts, and pays for the resources. Let's dive deeper into command staff. As needed, the incident commander may appoint a liaison, public information officer, safety officer, and MHOAC to support a response or coordination activities. This group is collectively called command staff. They follow the direction of the incident commander. The roles and responsibilities of all command staff are filled by the incident commander if these positions are not filled. For example, if a liaison is not activated, these duties fall on the incident commander. The MHOAC coordinates disaster medical health resources within San Mateo County. They are responsible for submitting the medical health situation report to send to the county and to the state. The MHOAC also serves as the single point of contact for resource coordination with the Regional Disaster Medical Health Specialist, the State Emergency Medical Services Authority, and the California Department of Public Health. The MHOAC contacts the RDMHS to obtain mutual aid support from other operational areas within the region or from state and federal resources if other operational areas are unable to meet needs. The Public Information Officer, or PIO, serves as the communication link with the media and the public. The PIO writes press releases, coordinates press conferences, and provides information to hotlines, collects up-to-date information from the planning and operations sections, coordinates with fire, law, and other PIOs through the EOC or Joint Information Center, provides relevant health information to the public. The PIO also needs to consider communications for non-English speakers and those with access and functional needs. The Safety Officer is responsible for the safety of DOC staff. They ensure safe practices are followed in the DOC, promote the mental and physical health of DOC staff, identify staff who need rest, treatment, or counseling, encourage staff to hydrate and take breaks, and completes the ICS 215A IAP safety analysis and ICS 208 safety message. The Liaison Officer serves as the point of contact for outside agencies and the DOC. In a large event, the Liaison Officer will coordinate interagency activities across EOCs and the Health DOC. Examples of groups the Liaison Officer might liaise with include schools, the American Red Cross, and the Ombudsman. General Staff refers to all staff outside of command staff. Each section is led by a section chief and then is staffed with supporting positions to accomplish the work as needed. As mentioned before, the operations section is made up of the doers. The operations section is broken down into branches to perform specific duties such as medical branch, behavioral health branch, environmental health and safety branch, nursing branch, or EMS branch, where healthcare facilities are monitored via ReadyNet. The operations section also contains technical specialists to provide subject matter expertise as necessary. The planning section contains the following positions: the situation status lead, who's responsible for the situation report, the resource unit lead, who tracks resources, a web EOC lead to operate web EOC, the documentation unit lead to collect all ICS forms, the messaging unit lead to track messaging, and the demobilization unit lead to plan for demobilization. The planning section works with logistics to secure staffing. Planning is also in charge of staff check-in and check-out at the DOC. The logistics section is made up of these positions: supply unit lead to place orders for supplies, facilities unit lead who coordinates the setup, maintenance, and demobilization of all incident facilities, IT to support technologies, food unit lead who's responsible for feeding the DOC staff, and communications unit lead to track the various communications channels. Logistics also works with planning to secure staffing for the initial and continued operations. The finance section is critical to the DOC operations because they make sure everyone is paid and that supplies can be paid for and ordered. They track staff time, costs, and are responsible for purchasing and procurement, as well as tracking claims. The finance section often remains activated into the recovery phase of an operation. Fulfilling resource requests is one of the most critical functions of the Health DOC. As resource requests come into the DOC, it is important to fill them appropriately to support the response. So where do resource requests come from? How does a resource request get to the DOC? From the impacted area. How do you fulfill a resource request at the DOC? You first look local, then to the county, then the region, and finally to the state to see who has available resources. Who handles the resource requests at the DOC? The Operations Section Chief determines the need for the resource, the Logistics Section Chief and Supply Unit Lead make sure the resource is ordered, and the Resource Unit Leader tracks the resource. Here is an example of the resource request pathway. First, a resource request arrives from the field. The resource request is directed to the Supply Unit Leader in the Health DOC Logistics section. The Supply Unit Lead notes whether or not it is a medical health resource. If not, the request is directed to the OES EOC. If it is a medical health resource, the Supply Unit Lead looks to see if it can be located in the county health warehouse. If yes, the Supply Unit Lead coordinates with the warehouse to deliver the resource to the field. If not, the Supply Unit Lead should determine if the resource can be purchased. If yes, Logistics will work with the Procurement Unit Lead and Finance to place the order. If the resource cannot be ordered, the Supply Unit Lead will work with the MHOAC to submit a regional resource request or to obtain other in-county resources. Communications and messaging. As the Health DOC expands to meet the needs of the incident, there must be a free flow of information. To accomplish this, orders, directives, resource requests, and status changes must follow the hierarchy of command unless otherwise directed. To communicate a resource request to the EOC, the planning section uses the software platform Web EOC. To sign up for a Web EOC specific training, contact your supervisor. To communicate messages between sections of the DOC, staff utilize the ICS 213 message form. This message form is tracked throughout the DOC by the Message Unit Lead and Documentation Unit Lead in the planning section. One of the key functions of the Health DOC is to produce an Incident Action Plan, or IAP. An IAP is compiled by the planning section and documents the strategic direction for the next operational period. The Incident Action Planning process provides the mechanism to compile the IAP by identifying meetings and briefings, decisions, and tactics. The Planning Section Chief is responsible for running the meetings, and the Operations Section Chief is responsible for enacting the decisions and tactics. The Incident Action Planning process is a continuous function that spans from the start of the incident to the completion of the response. The Planning P was developed by FEMA and is a visual guide to the process and steps involved in planning for an incident. Phase 1. Understand the situation. Phase 2. Establish incident objectives. Phase 3. Develop the plan. Phase 4, prepare and disseminate the plan. And Phase 5, execute, evaluate, and revise the plan. This full cycle is best suited for major incidents that require multiple operational periods. For shorter or small-scale incidents, many of the meetings required by this process can be combined into one. As the Planning Section Chief leads the Planning P meetings, it is important to have an agenda and stick to it, establish an end time, start and end on schedule, hold meetings in a place free from distractions, and take notes. Phase 1 of the Planning P starts with the leg of the P and is designed to gain initial awareness of the situation and establish the management of the situation. This phase is only performed one time at the start of an incident before moving into the Operations O. This first phase will likely be completed by the policy group once they are activated within the first 1 to 2 hours of an incident. They will consider the immediate impact of the incident on the operational area, the number of patients expected, the resources needed to support the response, and the state of communications and surrounding infrastructure. This information will be used as the basis for the initial incident briefing and is noted on the ICS 200 IAP cover sheet and the ICS 201 incident briefing. Within the first 3 hours of the incident briefing should occur. During this meeting, the incident commander addresses the command staff and provides the event name, operational period duration, initial goals and objectives, the staffing chart, and IAP meeting schedule. Phase 2 begins with a strategy meeting where command and general staff meet to develop incident objectives and provide the direction and resources needed to achieve these objectives. Objectives need to be established with the section chiefs and command staff based on priority, with input from leadership and outside emergency agencies. They should always answer the question, what must be accomplished, yet be flexible enough to allow for changes in tactics and strategies. Incident objectives should be developed SMART. S-M-A-R-T is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timely. The incident objectives will then be presented to the DOC staff at a command and general staff meeting. Objectives may be discussed and refined here, but should ultimately be accepted by the staff. Once the objectives have been accepted, guidance on how operations will proceed should be detailed. In Phase 3, the incident objectives are sent to the operations section to start developing strategies and tactics around them. These should be developed keeping resource and time constraints in mind, and the ability to achieve the desired outcomes. Once strategies and tactics have been developed, they are taken forward to the operations tactics meeting. Here, the decision is made as to which objectives should be finalized and the appropriate resources to assign. The outcome is a completed assignment list and a common understanding of the tactics, designated units, and resources assigned. Upon the completion of this meeting, the planning section should then assemble all documentation and forms required for the incident action plan, which now goes forward for the approval in the next phase. These forms are the nuts and bolts of the IAP, and most will have been completed in the first 2 phases. If you are responsible for any of these forms, complete them fully and accurately as they form the basis for your plan. The planning meeting is Phase 4, typically occurring at hour 8 of the DOC activation. At this meeting, the incident commander and general staff review and validate the IAP to make sure it gets communicated effectively to the DOC team. At this point in the planning process, most of the hard work should be done. It's a question of tweaking the details and making sure the plan is complete, concise, and in position to be properly executed. Once approved, it should be printed and distributed to the DOC staff, and there should be enough spare copies for any individual to reference if they need throughout the operational period. The IAP is then executed. As each meeting occurs, the planning section begins to assemble the documents required for the IAP. Once compiled, the incident commander reviews and approves the final IAP. We now enter Phase 5, the final stage of the operational period. An operations briefing is conducted to the incoming DOC staff. A successful briefing will make sure all critical information is communicated clearly and concisely. This includes briefing on the current incident situation and the approved IAP, while also allowing time for questions to be answered. The completed IAP is taken forward into the new operational period and serves as the blueprint for all priorities, actions, and resources during that period. The process moves back into Phase 2 of the Planning P, or what now forms the Operations O. As this new operational period is being performed, the DOC staff must begin planning the IAP for the next operational period. This process continues until the final operational period at the conclusion of the incident response. Demobilization of the DOC. When does demobilization start? The demobilization unit leader should start planning for demobilization at the onset of the incident. The demobilization unit works closely with the documentation unit leader to establish a procedure for collecting all completed documentation from the DOC. This includes T-cards, finance and admin forms, completed ICS 214 activity logs, and all other completed documentation. Demobilization also includes returning equipment and coordinating with logistics to make sure they return resources. After the response phase of the incident, the shift is made towards recovery. Recovery tasks include debriefing of personnel, tracking of supplies, materials, and contractual expenditures, documentation of record keeping, cost reimbursement, post-event evaluation and after-action reporting, and case management. The recovery phase can last for months and even years following a disaster. Documentation and record keeping must be maintained for FEMA. Health staff may want to seek out case management or behavioral health services to help transition from the stress of an incident response back to their regular job duties. It is important for health staff to take care of themselves and their loved ones. Thank you for participating in the Health Department Operations Center training. You now have an overview of DOC operations and your potential role in a disaster response. If you have any questions regarding this training or San Mateo County Health's role in a disaster, please email healtherprep@smcgov.org. Thank you.